gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and today I'm going to be reviewing 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, a solo RPG book. So this is a hard copy of 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. You can get it as a PDF, but I love it as a book because it has that old library book ambiance to it. It's got the stickers. If you open it up, there's stuff written inside the cover. There's like a fake price up here for like a used bookstore with drawn stamp. They're just very committed to making it have that vibe. I think it's really, really nice. But this is a solo RPG journaling game. And essentially what's going to happen is that you're going to create a vampire who is going to live over the course of several centuries. So you're going to want to choose a historical time period that's going to allow your vampire to develop over an extended period of time. It would also be possible perhaps to create a vampire that goes very far into the future, but I don't have that kind of imagination, and I like creepy, old, musky-dusky historical stuff, so that's not really my playstyle. But what's really cool about this game is that you create this vampire, you create some starting characters, so you have some mortal and immortal characters to begin with, and then mortals die, maybe you meet or create new ones, and you're going to be using your own creativity and imagination to do this. But what's interesting is part of the main engine of the game is the system of memories and experiences. So your vampire can only have a limited number of memories, and each memory can carry a limited number of experiences. You can extend this a little bit by keeping a journal and having a longer game, but these memories and experiences will affect the way that your vampire can react to things that happen throughout the game. And as you age, of course, you forget things, experiences fade into the past and are replaced by new memories, new experiences. And so the game is very much about, there's some gain, there's a lot of loss. You lose so many memories and experiences over time. And the pain of having to choose what to erase is really one of the things that makes the game poignant and interesting. You're also going to pick up different skills over time. Some of them you'll choose at the very beginning of the game. Others you will just sort of get as you go. But your vampire's memories, experiences, and skills are going to contribute to how your vampire is able to react when you come across various prompts. So this is very much a game where you've imagined someone and you're going to continue imagining how they experience their lives in the world as immortals. So to actually play the game, what you're going to need is just 2 dice. You need a d10 and a d6. You roll them, look at the difference, and use that difference to move backwards and forwards among a set of prompts that are in the game. So there's an initial set of prompts, and then there's some others in the back that we'll talk about. But they just give you a quick review of what to do. But I wouldn't write in here. I would actually just use a Google Doc or a journal, so have something ready to write with. But for each of the prompts, basically, you start with prompt 1. And if you end up being redirected to that prompt at any point, the first time you have it, you answer the first question, you respond to the first part. But then there are 2 more aspects of the prompt for you to respond to if you end up back there. So you don't end up doing the same thing again and again repeatedly. The game actually has a system for that. But since you typically would start here, let's just start with the first prompt. You have, in your blood hunger, you destroy someone close to you, kill a mortal character. So you've just created those for the very start of the game. You gotta make some decisions quick. Create a mortal if none are available. Take the skill Bloodthirsty. So this game's prompts are going to force you into difficult situations and into difficult choices that are going to impact and embellish the story of your vampire. Eventually, you're going to run out of skills and resources within the game, at which point your vampire will die horrifically, and you also get to decide how that's going to happen, get a little creative with it, write it up. It's really part of the fun of the game. So as you can tell, this game has a lot of dark themes, and horrible things are going to happen. There's going to be death. There's going to be permanent damage to your vampire's body. There are going to be choices that are really grim. And of course, the ending is inevitably going to be horrible. So if you're not ready for a game like that, you've been warned. But I actually found that this game forced me to be very thoughtful, to come up with interesting stories. So I had a vampiress who owned a gladiator school and was eating sick gladiators and claiming that they died of their injuries. And, she had a whole story arc. You're basically just going to create these characters that you get really attached to and who you really try to help survive. And then they are inevitably not going to make it. They have to make disgusting decisions along the way. And you're there thinking through it with them. And it's just really unlike any other game I've ever played. If you've played through that first set of prompts a lot, there are also a bunch of alternate prompts. Some of them kind of drag the game out a little bit more, but I think that if you want a longer and more creative game, then the additional prompts can be very helpful. There are also some kind of cool articles in the back talking about the design process and the intentions behind the game. So that's an overview of 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. Even though it has rules, honestly, it's meant to trigger your imagination and get you creating, so you really can't do it wrong. But let's see what I thought about it. So what did I end up thinking of 1,000-Year-Old Vampire? Well, I honestly think this game is amazing. The concept is so creative. The prompts are great. I like the system where you can keep responding to the same prompt with greater depth or with some variation, because I think that is a really good way to keep the game fresh. I love that there are extra prompts in the back and that you can play games that have a different pacing based on which set of prompts you choose. This game is a great combination of creative, where you have a lot of control over who your vampire is and what happens to them, but also it's a game that's going to force your vampire to its inevitable demise, as the game itself warns you when you start. So in all those ways, the game really, really delivered. I'm going to say overall that this game's biggest positive is the creativity that it brings out in you. By interacting with the prompts, by really taking your vampire creation seriously, by really getting into your side characters, you're going to have a different experience every time, and you're going to have experiences that are dark, but often surprisingly profound, or that really give you something to think about or to appreciate. And very, very few games can do that. I would say that 1,000-Year-Old Vampire is one of the coolest RPGs I've ever played. Among solo RPGs, I mean, I'm not a full-on expert on these, but it's definitely the best one that I have played. I am absolutely going to treasure this book, and I will play it again. If there are things to criticize about this game, I think there are a couple, but it really comes down to personal preference. The first is that, honestly, you do need a notebook or a Google Doc, something to record all of your thoughts and writings in. There is space for you to write in this book, but why would you ever do that? Because you're going to want to play it again with a different vampire, or you're going to want to pass it on to someone else and have them try it. So, you don't necessarily want to actually write in the book, even though there's space. This is one of those games that requires a little bit of extra equipment to play. I don't personally think that's a big deal at all, but, you should know. The other thing I think is important to note about 1,000-Year-Old Vampire is that the experience of this game is so rich, but you have to do a lot of the work to make it a rich experience. You're going to be the one who has to decide what period in time your vampire's from. You're going to have to research that. You're going to have to be the one who looks at names from ancient Egypt or Persia or China. And the game leaves all of that firmly in your hands. It's the same thing when you're coming up with side characters. When you create a mortal character, that's all it tells you to do. It doesn't give you any guidance on that. So you have to reach into yourself and tap into your own creativity to make this game work for you. So if you want to do something that's a little bit more guided, and you don't want to have to put in the work of basically creating a guided novel about a vampire, then this game may not be for you, and you might want something that's a little bit more structured. However, if you are looking to tap into your creative self, go a little crazy with vampires, and explore yourself in a solo RPG as never before, then I definitely recommend 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. For me, it is a 9 out of 10, and it gets a Dice Tower seal of excellence. Happy gaming.